I'm good. All right.
Contention 1 is deportations. Prosecutors use plea bargains in case against non-citizens course of deciding way immigration hearing rights leads to unjustified deportations, violations of international treaties, and mass suppression of undocumented immigrants. Williams and Musgrave, 1115. Prosecutors press non-citizens settle with the rest of the remainder of the plea claim to box settlement protection for prosecutors persecution. Prosecutors person from out of counsel by not let a judge deportation court records from most DJ docs and entities suggest prosecutors demand plea bargains in which non-citizens settle arrest provisions were non-negotiable tactics but people should be heard in immigration court when hearings until the 30% of non-citizens succeeded to stay in the country. Plea violate international treaties but give out to enable asylum. Prosecutors hold provisions of immigration due process were non-negotiable databases found recent police with asylum waivers in NY, Alabama, and Florida. Same provision, immigration waivers in Philly, agreement from 15 districts. Same provisions in Utah, given the present admin to support proliferation. Prosecutors also waivers in the future tries to wait police begin deportation, and even when immigrants don't get supported, their plea bargains results in sentences of unjustified length. Both outcomes are bad. Cade 13. Recent changes have expanded range of criminal offense, litter, deportation, and other immigration consequences. Criminal post-conviction restriction of enforcement initiatives increased pipeline for criminal arrest, removal proceedings, and immigration laws. Unjust and punishes non-citizens with deportation for minor offenses in a system that doesn't meet due process standards. Local scheme is one in which petty convictions or petty arrests lead to banishment, retraction, institutional no trust, negotiation for immigration, safe disposition, PC, ill-informed police, little individualized, ethical, equitable consideration, part of the course, counsel or not, informed non-citizens take back police motivated by the desire to avoid contact with immigration authorities rather than the strength of the prosecutor's case leads to convictions of innocence, unnecessarily high sentences, and increased risk of deportation, even in misdemeanor cases. Cade 13. Non-citizens for worse for institutional features make it likely that non-citizens will be adequately informed about what their pleas offensive literature and use non-citizens commonly plead guilty of petty offenses without knowing deportation will result even where defendants sort of plea may result in immigration consequences, time pressures, and other endemic obstacles frustrate ability to bargain. Non-citizens have tremendous incentive to plead guilty as quick as possible, and the ability to plead quickly and go home leads judges to induce defendants to plead within minutes, destroys due process, uniquely worse for juvenile defendants. Cade 13. Judges force defendants to waive counsel in petty cases, tell defendants to plead guilty, they'll go home right away. But if one offense or will remain jailed, this is particularly effective with juvenile defendants. They're subject to pre-trial detention relative if they can plead right away, so linear criminal sanction, not immigration consequences, misdemeanor defendants with enhanced misdemeanor defendants may not constantly vow non-citizens of immigration consequences. All defendants who represent misdemeanor defendants are appropriate experiences subject to significant pressure to drop police money, the petty offenses are immigration consequences will recognize the important distinctions between convictions, and the United States should abolish plea bargaining in cases against non-citizen defendants in the criminal justice system. Contention 2 solvency and plan solves puts burden of proof on government significantly, reduces unjust prosecutions. While 3, if it will United States and federal requires guilt, co-operative reduction, prosecution, not to mention incarceration, is important step, and massive public cruelty in Michigan. Previous abolition must decrease sentence severity and length. Also doesn't cause court club other quick measures like bench trial solve human and Lofton 79. Recent consequences and attempt to abolish liberty prohibition on increase severity sentence should cause events possession penalty period of all should medical sentence for felon march or adjusted downward other mechanisms such as reviewed branch trials were often employed, and the app spills over globally. Bocot 17. U.S. health plea has reached out proportions to survey of international justice. One study in 90 countries by fair trials of those procedures have increased 300% of U.S. has granted large legislation for trial waivers wide use, provided development funding and technical support for rule of law primarily through training for judges and lawyers, and no reforms solve the app, especially for non-citizen defendants. Alshul and Krieger 13. Police system subjects defense attorneys to serious temptation for private attorneys, guilty pleas and quick buck attorneys, collective fees in advance of pocket dispose rapidly inclusive even while penal conscientious lawyers plea negotiating minimizes root work and reduces conflict, promotes cordial comfortable relationships, and influences public defenders even more. Judicial decisions can significantly ameliorate, and legal reform changes prosecutorial culture. Masket 15. Laws can be changed during civil rights movement strategy to pressure elected officials and challenge laws to end segregation, secure voting rights, persuade Republican change culture rather than proceed to change the law. We have seen same-sex couples, abortion, poverty, health insurance issues with deep and complicated histories, social culture shift, collective legal change, framing, state immigration enforcement opposes racial apartheid, oppression, and dehumanization spills over from marginalized groups to everyone. Combating it is uniquely key. Fernandez 514. As the border security industries ratchet up its efforts, a much greater chunk of the countries come under supervision, drawing the border between people depends on individual internal station officers versus mentality, justifies continued state repression, racialized law enforcement tendencies, imposes a system of apartheid rather than means a de facto criminal station, political marginalization, documents and undocumented immigrants alike. As the border patrol's authority can see which supports the anti-immigrant and high-time maintenance of rights being curtailed. New social control and surveillance technology is always served by targeting society's weakness, most marginalized groups and marginalities. Technology movement with stronger borders between people in 90 states city or neighborhood depends on the individual internalization officer them itself. Justifies continues to repression and the perpetuation of political and corporate power structures, and the attempt to create objective meaning through borders causes global violence. Krippendorf 90. When messages have an objective existence, almost get the same content differences may be dismissed as errors. These dismisses will propose the authority to dismiss but simple justice to an objective reality dismiss. One is left with no cognitive autonomy violence about whose authorities to set the interpretation, the other must substitute a natural complex or better. One side claiming to be correct and looking the other from to show this interpretation signs function as similar regardless of whether anyone knows them. Questions like what does this mean can ultimately be answered only by an authority, and dehumanization is historically the cause of war. Genocide makes us morally culpable to any atrocity. Livingston Smith 11. Dehumanization opens the door for genocide. It's difficult to kill closer to reflect atrocities on the ability to humanize others. They conceive them as people when Nazis describe Jews, they meant they were subhuman to the murders. They as people when individuals solve the lost or foster food worse than animals, according to animals, and prefer consequential focus on combating structural violence and exclusion mills. If you have post-small victims, classifications, and leave small victims focus on reality themselves and understanding person perspective from bottom up to more after destruction between official and actual experience, generous all sort of world perception of reality on honest viewing it from outside rather than inside, or able to see the terms fully more clearly focus on the details and then the unapproached racial conscious frame of function. Indeed, these have become less important than the method in which they are embedded in. Issues of repression come first in winter and late in 99. Structural violence is an invisible embedded in ubiquitous structural social structure normalized by normal stable institutions produce suffering deaths often direct on more subtle common difficult very from loose direct violence organized power conflicts is usually traced to structure and inequality. Skip the last part under review first. The discussion is uniquely important now with T, K through C. Articles on total explore changes effect on challenges based on nonsense effective immigration prison plea bargaining choices has brought no academic focus whatsoever. Second, theorized deliberation between proposals for legal reform is good. The role of values to evaluate the hypothetical desirability of the advocacy constrained by procedural fairness. Discussion of policy is good. Methodology and forms for debate. A policy discussion is good. Institutions are inevitable. Influence and pragmatically engage them best facilitates change that makes sense. UK policies will support change will mean change will be pressure to by the rest of corporate abuses when racial justice and contesting policies will make us damn anywhere to be determined welfare policy is founded on just policy doesn't get relevant that involves policy is meant to be block their punches. There's one card in the app that wasn't in the doc. I'll just send that card.
What was that?
It was the card right after the Fernandez evidence, the Krippendorf card.
Where was that?
The Krippendorf and ID evidence, the attempt to create objective meaning through borders causes global violence. I'm going to send that card now.
I don't need it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. That's a framing card, right?
Yeah, it's in frame.
Okay, cool. Are you ready for cross-sex?
Yeah.
Who does the plan?
The U.S.
Which part of the U.S.?
U.S. FG, I guess.
Alright, would you defend normal means then?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Are any constraints on what I can read? Can I read an agent counterplan and a advantage counterplan, and will you not read theory?
If you read condo picks, I will read theory.
Okay, why?
Because they're unfair.
Okay, you say the discussion outweighs T. Why does the discussion of the pick versus the app
because
outweigh
the pick
theory?
destroys discussion of the app. You steal the app offense, and we can't have a discussion.
So if I win an argument on T that you destroy limits, it seems to also answer this K argument. The
no,
point of discussion outweighs T is that it outweighs
the point of voting on the app is that you do not subsume the app for the topicality argument.
So only the discussion that you posit in terms of immigrants matters and not my responses?
No, because the point of a pick is that it steals the entirety of the app offense, so no discussion can be had. Your limits argument is
so you said if I read a conditional pick. Okay,
that.
You said if I read a condo pick, you'll read theory. Okay, cool. That's a constraint on the 1 AR. Can I also read an agent counterplan with it?
I mean, I said I may read theory. I'm not obligated to read theory.
Okay, yeah, but you only but condo pick is where the threshold lies, right?
Or like condo bat or picks bat or agent counterplan.
Oh, so you actually don't care about the discussion at all. You're just itching to read theory if I respond to you.
No, I'm saying
because I spent a lot of time last night finding something, and I really, really don't want to just
okay,
cry.
So read one unconditionally, Ishan, or don't read a pick. Then we can have a discussion. I think this is simple.
Okay. That's probably okay. The contention debate. Why abolish all plea bargains?
The app abolishes plea bargaining in the cases.
Why abolish all plea bargaining cases involving non-citizens?
Because there is a structural power imbalance in these cases. Because normally plea bargains operate in a different way, but with non-citizens, there isn't the extra threat of deportation hanging over them. That creates a structural barrier for them in a plea bargain because the prosecutor.
Your advantage. I'm curious about this. Your advantage evidence is about how waivers in plea bargains are a problem.
Yeah, prosecutors insist on these waivers.
Okay, if those waivers were banned, could there be other forms of plea bargaining that?
Yeah, because prosecutors would say that they're an undocumented immigrant, and one of the Cade evidence discusses the asymmetry of information that exists. So even if these waivers are banned, prosecutors can still insist on longer incarceration or some other form of immigration penalty, especially given that undocumented immigrants don't have access to that high quality representation.
Okay, where does the Cade evidence say that? Can you point to me a line?
Yeah, sure. So those subjects to pretrial detention rarely feel that they can plead right away to lenient criminal sanctions, not knowing immigration consequences. Misdemeanor defendants plead in haste. Defenders may not be able to constantly advise non-citizens of immigration consequences, etc.
Okay, cool. I will start prep now. Stop. 3:55 left. I'll mill it out. Oh, you can take prep for I'm just going to change something like that.
Take prep for
Alright, the order is 4 off. Case under review, contention. On the under review, it'll just be this discussion outweighs thingy.
4 off under contention.
Yep.
Review on the
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, the K thing that outweighs T.
1 second. There it is.
This is doc-out?
Yeah.
Okay.
New slow for texts and interps.
Yep. Everybody feeling ready?
I don't have the doc.
Okay. Oh, funny, that's the first off. Sorry.
This is good.
Did you get the doc yet?
No. Do you have it?
I also have not received it.
Oh, am I connected to the internet? Yes. Have I? Oh, I did not hit send. I thought I did. Never mind.
Let's see what
Okay, now it came instantly.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Alright.
One second, I'll let that open.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Interpretation. The affirmative must defend all instances of plea bargaining be banned in the United States criminal justice system. Abolition requires a complete evidence on practice. Merriam-Webster 17. Turn the observance to completely do away. Violation. If any amount of plea bargaining remains, they don't need abolished. They ban it only in non-citizen cases. Paragraph 83. The text simply says that no law may abolish forced hardship. The normal meaning of abolish is complete destruction as long as any kind of forced hardship is called forced hardship is not abolished. Standards. 1. As long as being able to specify a type of plea bargaining leads to a flurry of affirmatives being able to specify what court bargaining would be banned, what cases would be banned, for whom it would be banned, and hundreds of subset makes this topic unsustainable. That kills fairness, explodes, neck pepper, and then allows the affirmative cherry pick the best portion of the topic that they can answer, kills education, spread truth, and we can effectively learn. Second is position. 8 point defending the topic is a prima facie burden that is to be met regardless of the pragmatic validity of other interms. Even those interms would be pragmatically better than not the topic we would debate living the way just because it was more educational, since everyone is preparing for plea bargaining. B point, it controls the internal links to pragmatics. It's not defending the topic would destroy limits to make pragma impossible. Voter fairness is better since debates game that duties rules to function and provided where draft debater you have to hold them to their interpretation of the topic, and dropping the argument would be the exact same thing used competing interpretations to decide models for our advocacies in terms of topicality. 8 point, theoretical concerns about what advocacy should be held to a higher standard. C. B point, and reasonability encourages intervention and judges to impose their own thought on the topicality debate. You can't be reasonably topical to yes no question. Topicality always one error theory since it frames the entire base and frames the entire thing. If the one in C was abusive, that's because the environment was abusive in the first place. No RBIs on T. A point, their interprets every debate collapse scenes, no would ever read any substance which will cause no substantive debate. B point, you should get a reward for being topical and I should get punished for having. C point, it makes you more efficient and better depending on your position from multiple angles. D point, counterinterpret, you get an RBI for reading more than one shell. Next off. The Supreme Court of the United States should prohibit non-citizen due process rights from being relinquished in plea bargains and in cases with non-citizen defense only allow count bargaining used to decrease the severity of a crime in order to deportation. They said in cross-examination they'll defend normal means. Alaska's normal means. The counterpoint competes because that's the executive branch in terms of the Attorney General Marin in 95. Alaska's Attorney General banned plea bargaining. And prosecutors are utilizing plea bargaining in terms of count bargaining to protect immigrants from deportation. Now, plan stops at Gonzales 531. When negotiating plea deals depends on the facts of each case. Prosecutors use their discretion to protect immigrants and ensure that immigrants are to get reported for minor crimes. With the current climate, Trump's been pushing Gonzales, but he said non-citizen can face double jeopardy. Prosecutors consider defense and immigration status when negotiating plea deal with California state law. Instruct forced prosecutors when consider immigration status and defense and plea bargaining are increasingly being used as a tool to protect immigrants from forced deportation. Plea bargaining has kept 400 non-citizens in the United States. In U.S. Santa Clara County alone, Ramney 17. For non-citizens, shoplifting can result in deportation. District attorneys offer immigrants accused of crime plea deals to avoid their fate. San Francisco District Attorney has at least a decade offer of non-citizen plea deals to avoid deportation. Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Baltimore City consider immigration consequences prosecuting low-level crimes in Santa Clara County modifies the plea for immigration reasons 400 times a year. This solves the case. This is the 1AC Williams et al. 17 evidence. The leverage prosecutors hold that the plea bargaining behind the risk of abuse have grave concerns about limiting the small amount of due process afforded immigrants. They should absolutely not be imposed as part of the plea agreement. Federal prosecutors are likely to demand plea deals in which count non-citizens sign away due process rights and picks are key to real-world decision-making. Branson 7. 7. I was kind of surprised to find that the knowledge generated by debate cursing and artificial I could rattle off a list of arguments with the empirical and factual basis was completely missing the technical issues and understanding how the fine points and process works while also missing this really determines whether policy sources about how to make debate that technical policy world picks are vital. The topic about which I can best converse is design of emissions trading team because the literature was deep in the prevalence of pigs near the debates first rule in-depth discussion. Next off. First is reasonability on one-error theory. Persuasive defense on one-error theory means you ignore a theory isn't like topicality with a predictable basis for interpreting the text of the resolution. It's arbitrary and decided by debaters. Requires abandoning substance instead of norm, which means the benefit that norm must outweigh voting on theory instead of substance. Second, one-error theory is skewed towards the affirmative. A point, the two norms cover substance and overcover theory since they get the 3-minute 2-hour collapse on one of the layers and persuasiveness advantage of a 3-minute 2-hour. B point, the responses to my counter joke will be new, which means one-error theory necessitates intervention. The implications. A point, one-error theory cannot be a legitimate check for abuse and you should reject it. B point, dropping the argument minimizes the chance that the rand is decided unfairly. C point, if intervention will happen on theory debates, then judges should intervene in a way that decreases the asinine nature of LD theory. Next off. The federal government has established unitary executive branch control over prosecutorial discretion, which has resulted in an unregulated mess, but that system has yet to spill over to the entire CJS. The plan affirms that interpretation through their use of the executive branch and prevents reform. The SCOTUS counterplan solves that. Round 16. The Supreme Court has repeatedly concluded that the federal constitution gives the executive branch exclusive authority, absolute discretion to decide whether prosecutor charging discretion is special problem to the executive branch. In the plea writing contest, the court held that discretion authority gives up prosecutors enormous power to impede litigation process. Prosecutors function have the exclusive authority over critical searching litigation act with regard to changing or dismissing charges. Judge based about judicial oversight of prosecutor discretion over federal jurisdictions for relevant to state criminal justice system. State systems are also state constitutions, therefore in significant ways from federal counterparts. When it comes to criminal justice system, state courts have approved arrangements that can be barred in federal context. States also depart from federal one to unitary executive prosecution authority. The states also differ sharply from federal experience, and court actions solidifies judicial review standards, solves ambiguities, and solves the case, and rectifies the mistake of sole executive authority. Brown 16. Some states recognize judicial capacity despite the judicial deference to prosecutors. State courts have departed from federal conception, separation of powers. California court has concluded that dismissal of charges is a judicial function. The strongest assertion of judicial conduct comes from New Jersey court, and as you were California's judges versus prosecutor house compared to the federal system. Many states have distinct constitutional structures. The difference which leads states away from the error of viewing all prosecutor discretion as exclusive executive and immune to any judicial input. State statutes demonstrate some possibilities. Judicial attack. There is a good reason to question the doctrine in the federal context where it prohibits oversight of prosecutorial discretion. Some kind of reason, the only meaningful regulation of plea bargaining and leave executive power to be checked. Case under review. First, a topical version of the affirmative. There are two affirmatives that immigration is being read with an advantage against. First is the Winston Churchill affirmative that deportation advantage. Second is the Harker affirmative with also deportation advantage. There's no reason as to why you can't meet my interpret and have your discussion in the first place. Second, T is prior because it says whether you're procedurally fair in the first place. If I couldn't engage your affirmative, that's the engagement argument from the cross-ex. Third, there's always exclusion of some discussion because the topic is limited and it's about one thing. We can't discuss living wage even if living wage is a good discussion. Fourth, your Kate evidence is about other legal articles like a Clapman article, which is not about topicality. It's just saying those other articles ignore things about the affirmative, but that doesn't mean I do. Now, the case. As an overview, I'll explain the counterplan versus the affirmative right here. The affirmative criticized prosecutorial power. They say that plea bargainings gives waivers to prosecutors to be able to have immigrants lose their deportation rights. The counterplan solves that since it prohibits those waivers. Their Cade evidence about how prosecutors still have powers isn't good enough. It has barely any lines that actually say that, and it's all about those waivers in the first place and prosecutors' unchecked power. The counterplan only allows count bargaining where the sentence decreases so that immigrants can stay in the country. Because what happens if immigrants get convicted for felonies is they have to leave the country immediately and they automatically waive their deportation rights. For the counterplan and plea bargaining prevents that because prosecutors understand that they're immigrants and they say that no, we'll plea bargain and you'll get convicted for a lesser crime and you can stay in the country, which is something that the counterplan resolves and net benefit in straight terms of the affirmative. Now, abolition is illusory and costly. The affirmative is structural adjustment. How in 5? Attempt to eliminate plea bargaining would involve cost trade also to abolish or require change in the amount of public resources devoted to fighting crime system that eliminate plea bargaining only substituted an equivalent method. Efforts at abolition turn to be illusory and costly. Bargaining continued in almost all cases. Study field to show that plea bargaining is irrevocable. Efforts to simply ban plea bargains have repeatedly failed because such as the expensive trade-offs involving the prosecutor in El Paso also attempted to impose such a ban. The bargaining shifted to other stages in the adjudication process, merely shifted prosecutors to judges or prosecutors ignored the ban and subverted through subterfuges. Now the line by line, their Cade evidence that count bargaining already solves the case that was above your Herman and Lofton 79 evidence. This proves the competition because it's about the district attorney, it's about the process, it's about the district, the executive branch sort of banning plea bargaining for everyone underneath it in Wade County, which is the reason that's why you actually defend the actor that I criticize. And the Supreme Court counterplan is better. Your global spillover evidence, it's not reverse causal. It says that plea bargaining is resulting in global shift, but not that banning it will result there, especially in immigrant cases. Your no reform argument links to you or it doesn't link to me because it's just about changing laws and how prosecutors have power. Your mascot evidence about culture is about the civil rights movement, not the affirmative. Cross-ex.
Ready? Status the counterplan.
Dispositional. If you straight turn it, I won't kick it.
Alright. So let's talk about the
Actually, wait, no, never mind. It's unconditional. Whoops. I was planning on reading 2, and I just realized I read 1.
Alright, I have a question about the usury evidence.
Which one?
The second card on case. You say only a constant.
I did not read that.
Okay.
I read up to Hal
Sure.
and then line by line BF.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alright. So the how evidence indicates that attempts to abolish plea bargaining would be illusory.
Mhm.
What does it mean that it's What does it mean to be illusory?
It's a circumvention claim that
Okay.
shifts to other stages.
Why does verbal fiat not solve?
Circumvention, not as in the plan gets rolled back, but rather when the ban is in place,
Sure.
prosecutors don't care.
Prosecutors don't
So it's
care.
a no solvency claim,
Okay,
not
so
a
what do
durable fiat.
prosecutors do then?
So the
It says
argument is
bargaining
there are
shifted to
two.
other stages.
There are
We
two
ban.
claims. First, the bargaining can shift to other stages of adjudication, like
Sure.
informal punishments before the sort of hearing even happens. Independent. So the shift to other stages argument is there. Second, the enforcement of the affirmative isn't as good as you would like it to be. Prosecutors can keep using it because there's so many of them, and judicial checks just like aren't probably going to work in terms of the executive branch, which you defend, which is run by
Okay, that's
Sessions, Trump,
Alright, I have
etc.,
another
etc.,
question.
etc. It's probably why the SCOTUS kind of
Alright,
avoids it.
Ishan, I have another question.
Mhm.
Okay, so you say one-hour theory skews towards the app. Why is this not true for 1 and CT? I.e. the two enormous cover substance and overcover theory. Why is this not true for the 1 AR, where I have to answer a pick, answer case turns, and T?
Well, pick's unconditional. You wrote a very small plain text, so it seems like you should be able to leverage your affirmative. But in terms of
Okay, so
1
then
AR
why
theory,
is 1 AR theory
okay,
against the pick
so
not legitimate
if I
as
give
well?
a 2 NR on T, you still have a 2 AR, whereas I only have one speech to cover 1 AR theory, in which I must win substance handedly and also
Okay, that's
overcover
fine.
theory, because if I
Alright.
make a counter interpret,
Ishan,
all your
I have
responses
another
will be
question.
new.
Alright, so you say reasonability on theory. What's the right line?
It's persuasive defense on theory means you ignore
Okay,
it.
what
It
is persuasive defense?
whatever the judges think it is. I
Okay,
actually
that's
don't
easy
care
by the
about your
question.
intervention arguments. That is an
Confusing
impact term that
interpretation.
is explicitly in that debate.
Sure, that's fine. Alright, so the Supreme Court counterplan is what's the ruling? Is there a test case or what?
I can give you a test case if you want.
Do you specify test case in 1 and C?
Oh, so it's not about whether you want a test case, it's about some theoretical claim. Yeah,
I'm just
I'll
asking.
give you a
Do
test
have
case right
in
now.
1 and C. Okay, what's the test case?
It's called Bodilla versus the the state of Indiana. It's an
Okay.
immigration case that is in federal courts right now. The Supreme Court can accelerate overturn.
Okay.
Is the test case
Has
going
it
to use
been
for
appealed?
affirmed?
Has it been appealed to the Supreme Court yet?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And has the court granted certiorari yet?
I don't know.
You don't know.
But in terms of test case, I probably get to like sort of
Okay,
fiat it.
that's
If
fine.
you're an if you're like
Uh,
Congress, you get to
Ishan, I
fiat
have
the
another
dis-
question.
Okay.
So the Merriam-Webster evidence indicates that abolition requires me to completely do away with something. Why does the app not completely do away with plea bargaining in these cases?
I asked you if you abolished all of it. You were like, no, only in cases with non-citizen defendants.
Sure,
Like,
that's fine.
I would still be plea bargained, I guess, if I
Yeah.
committed a crime. Great timing, I forgot to start.
The order is case
How much do you have left?
30. The order is case T, pick.
Can I get that one more time?
Case T, pick. Like the theory preamps and the ones here are going to be answered on the pick.
Is it the 1 air theory preamps or the?
Your 1 air theory preamps.
Yeah.
Can you be clear when you go to that flow, please?
Yeah.
Where on the app?
On the app, it'll be solvency.
Can you repeat the order again, please?
Yeah. The order is case T, pick.
Is there a doc?
Yeah, I'm sending it.
With theory addressed on the pick.
Yes. Send, and then you get it. Oh, actually, on the app, it'll start on the framing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Framing, you mean?
The 1AC framing. Alright. I'm gonna move this table closer to the chair. Problems. This charger is not long enough.
Wanna move it back one?
And stand, you can move it.
You can also move the table more.
Yeah, we can move the table as well.
Yeah, that table toe leg on the back looks really close to the edge.
Yeah, just move the table back, let's not.
Yeah.
Is this please judging attention?
Unless they're totally going everyone down. But it's impossible.
Everyone good? Switch the order. It's actually just the ass and see.
Okay, no frame. Yeah.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
The case debate, immigrants get supported through courts of liberty and sent to jail for absurd periods of time in exchange for remaining sentences, liberating a person immigrants exposed to deportation rights, abolition, soft sector repression, since kids go to trial with a 30% of political rate and change. It's just for secretarial culture by fundamentally altering the law's power balance. Prosecutors see this and modify the behavior. The PIC does not solve this culture change arguments, and it's not large enough to form the act as a massive form that gets rid of all flavor in the act. The PIC only gets rid of some waivers, which means you don't access the culture change argument. They have considered this the only argument is that this about the civil rights movement. Yes, but the generalizable logic is that when you have massive reform that changes the cultures of actors in the system now, the only case answer they have is circumventional answer that here first. Conceded massive 15 culture change legal reform change the sectoral cultures proximity for one circumvent abolition sense of mission targeting undocumented immigrants isn't accessible anymore. Second, durable fiat also legal plans to stop from the after fall of durable fiat backgrounds and sanctions was definitionally politically unlikely. That's where inherency comes from. Third is third is always circumvention arguments apply doubly to the PIC and then apply doubly to the PIC, especially since it's a smaller reform that only be in small waivers that are much easier to circumvent, which means the circumvention arguments take out your pick. Now the next argument they make is that liberating state immigrants from deportation, but even when immigrants avoid deportation part of work, they go to prison for martial law administration, they same sentence, left concessions as citizens, and prosecutors act authority granting massive consent by not supporting them as conceded K13, evidence from what he explains in the overview, which means these case answers are nonsensical now. Go to the now T. Counter-interpretation is in counter-interpretation. The word in the resolution sets a parameter boundary for something. The act must be within the CGS. This needs to encompass the whole thing. So, and the whole thing, the dictionary expressing something in closer around to within something else. They only found out partial part of the resolution means this definition better since the act completely partial within the CGS. As per the definition of as a subset of the CGS, that was the CS answer for first death and breath. No argument case identical play no more certainly immigration cases. Judicial language prosecutors have deportation possible discuss how the criminal expecting particular criminal situation strong general into education caused by the K13 from the underview second key to check picks generic houses. Next to pick out once the temporary witnesses off office and debates the gap decision better shows discussion from the one you see they'll say they'll say the fact that pay the picking this right for good disputes that but a portion of the frequency of picks. Third, grab big ask what's unclear where for whom the breakdowns are out as well short worse than hypothetical gas society. People live some how the form includes and response to the after description put from the one area with the latter option slow and concrete stable option you can generate often that's worse specific purpose can you check now generics always since Negara has massive time to can win everyone one generic the entire topic semantics is incoherent in this specific case pragmatics about it is also irresolvable so we write a separate definition and they have never got a reason for why their specific definition is good I field context accuracy etc. You can't read definition say precision you never explain why your definition is precise Ishan prefer our definition because we take into account the whole resolution instead of just one little word in one little word in it now the limits arguments first ground out this limits since you can make arguments doesn't even matter it doesn't matter if there's too many prep this topic is huge this topic is small you should be able to prep it all second is that vagueness is worse than unlimited topics since vagueness have no response whereas unlimited topics at least have some possible response I generics etc which means we solve all your we solve all your offense the other standards yeah you only read two shitty standards okay the app gets RBS on T. There's a massive times against the against the one you see against the one you see. There only are answers that every intro for seven basic class of T. Then you should read about T shell. Then you should read about T shell. Then you should get a word for being topical. It's not a question of being a word for being topical. It's a question of you punishing you for reading a really frivolous T shell. Now the Vic first. First, no solvency if you take data fiasco to spreading certiorari for the test case, and you get to assume that destroys background for solvency, and the solvency arguments, especially against PIC, so the test case never goes to the court. Under the PIC, you can't rule on a case that is not before the court. Currently, just because they've appealed does not mean that they've been certiorari yet. Also, for committing prediction on theory, every single arbitrary background of lawyer, and has been recent bottom cluster, just find more BDC, keen enough study, which is not formed of storms, the activity, collapse, and opinions, with health, that's interest for debate. No one air theories, laughing walks when he's stressing the piece, otherwise he can lead literally 1,000 conditional critiques in the one and see that the one air always gets fucked over. You should check and circuit, this is absurd. Also, picture voting issue for a picture voting issue for after they still the entirety of the one year impossible. It also destroys class education since you still the entirety of we can't have a discussion about duplication versus other things. You only force it to small little technical impacts.
Alright. 3:55 starting now. At 3:55.
Is this live stream or being recorded?
It's recorded.
We have minutes left. I gotta play it quickly. I forgot to call her.
People actually watch tennis.
Yeah, he does.
I do. Yeah. People don't.
A red Bluetooth speaker has been turned into the tablet in Venice.
Yeah, it's Kumi's. He posted in the LD thingy about it. Alright. The disad, the like exec branch disad, the SCOTUS counterplan. Oh wait, he's not here. What am I doing?
Oh. Oh, can be digits. Let's say the order anyways.
Alright, sure. Disad, SCOTUS CP, the case, topicality, and then Pixbed.
Just a counterplan T case fixed bed.
Yes.
Okay.
I was timing.
Alright, it's disad, the exec disad, the SCOTUS counterplan, the case, T, Pixbed.
One more time, sorry.
Disad, counterplan, case, T, picks bad. So I'm guessing you flip picks bad on the counterplan flow, so
Yeah.
we'll go back to that after I'm done doing substance.
Where on substance?
On substance it'll be disad, counterplan, case, and then topicality, and then picks bad.
Sorry, I just meant like
Oh, on the case?
case.
Oh, just the solvency that he, like his arguments.
Okay.
Alright. Is everybody ready? Yes. Okay, cool. Conceded dissent means the debate is over. 8 outweighs the case. 8 point is that the executive branch authority legitimizes prosecutorial power, which is all of our Brown evidence, is that outweighs the case and sets in his internal link. It's an enormous internal link to the case, because even if your case is a good idea, proves that the actor used it as bad. B point, it means that it takes out any sort of risk of a solvency deficit to the counterpart. Since the counterpart is SCOTUS action, you've conceded that SCOTUS action legitimizes judicial authority, which is key to regulate plea bargaining, which means it better solves the case, and outweighs any risk of a solvency deficit to the counterpart, which means all this cultural shift nonsense on the case is outweighed by the dissent. Conceded dissent means the game's over, and all will always come down to fix by the SCOTUS counterplan. You conceded the net benefit of the Gonzalez evidence that count bargaining is used to prevent deportation, i.e. when immigrants commit crimes, you can lessen the crime using count bargaining and get them prevented from deportation. That's the Gonzalez evidence and the remedy evidence that it says it's been doing 400 cases alone in one single county in the United States. This net benefit always the case is because it appeals to their actual impact, which is deportation, instead of the nonsense cultural shift arguments, which means you should evaluate the counterpart on sufficiency framing. He didn't articulate how much is needed to sort of engage in a cultural shift, which means if the counterpart solves enough of the case, then you should vote negative on the net benefit of the counterpart. His line by line arguments, he said we don't fiat a test case. So my line in cross-ex was I will fiat certoria right after he asked about it, because we do get to fiat a test case. It's just like how there's two reasons. First is logical debate about how the court would not concern stuff like a test case, just rather how they should rule. It's the same way that people read Congress plans, fiat the person who comes up with the bill, the vote, the committee, the debate on the floor, Trump not vetoing, etc. Their executive fiats the fact that Trump is not stupid enough to write his signature on the executive branch bill. These sort of minor issues should not be evaluated. It's actually specified a real test case, which should be definitely up, even if there isn't certoria organo, which takes out this argument now. I'll deal with the picks bad later, but that definitely means the pick is a game over on the affirmative since there was a conceded net benefit. All I have to answer is the cultural shift arguments on the case. Now, the case. You say the case solves the pick doesn't because of the cultural shift argument. You can see your evidence is about literally the entire civil rights movement. Like every law passed during the civil rights movement somehow concluded in a cultural shift. That doesn't mean your one reform to non-citizen defendants is a reason as to why you result in the same cultural shift. Second, you didn't articulate how much is necessary. You say the plank only gets rid of waivers, which means it doesn't result in the cultural shift. You should have read the counterplan text much closer. It says only allow count bargaining. The SCOTUS should only allow count bargaining used to decrease sentences to prevent deportation, which means it also gets rid of all other forms of plea bargaining. That was the text of the counterplan. You can call for it after the round if you think it only gets rid of waivers, which means it also results in the majority of the affirmative, so it solves all this cultural reform arguments. His circumvention arguments, he says it applies to the pick. I'll concede your first two answers that circumvention doesn't matter independently. The Brown evidence takes out circumvention because it's a SCOTUS ruling, while circumvention is about attorney generals, which is the how part about Alaska, which is the reason as to why the counterplan doesn't link to circumvention. Your K13 longer sentences argument is resolved by the pick because the pick bans all plea bargaining except for plea bargaining that can give shorter sentences, which was in the counterplan text, which means the debate on substance is game over T. I'll answer the RBI arguments. You just make a time skew argument. Time skew is not a real thing. You just have to get faster, more efficient. 2 more drills with Jonas, because he's pretty fast. The whole part, the entire point of the T is that I should be able to check whether you're topical or not. You conceded 3 arguments as to why RBI, you get an RBI. First, you shouldn't get a reward for being topical because it's a rule of the game. Second, it makes you more efficient and better defending your position from multiple angles. And you also conceded a counter-interpretation that solves like offense. And if I read more than one shell, you get an RBI, which means you should evaluate the RBI debate on things like strength of link, because I have a counter-interpret that says if I read more than one shell, then he gets an RBI, but in case of one shell, he does not get an RBI, which resolves most of his time skew arguments. You also shouldn't vote on time skew because there is no time skew. We both get 13 minutes to speak. You should just read a better underview against T, or write your av more strategically. It's not. I didn't read a frivolous shell. T abolish is literally the biggest topicality argument on the topic, which means I should not get punished for checking, especially since I stayed up all night to research your affirmative and find a good answer to it. Now, there on the line by line of the T arguments that he made. I'm going to concede all of your T counterinterps because it takes out the entirety of the Picks Bride argument. Extend his first argument that depth. Each form of plea bargaining is completely different, which means Picks are key to focus down the debate down to each specific form of plea bargaining. That debate over. That was a conceded argument. He also cross-applied an education voter and said education outweighs, which means education outweighs fairness in terms of his Picks Bad argument. You should have read responses to T that directly clash with your Picks Bad argument. Your second argument said that small plans are inevitable. Better to get that started in the 1AC, which is the reason as to why small advocacies like the Pick are definitely a good thing. You also say that plans like yours are key to check back back against PICs, which proves no abuse since you read a plan like yours, and you claim that it checks back PICs, which I'm conceding right now that plans check back PICs, which means there is no fairness abuse on his arguments because obviously his plan checks back PICs. You say, so your last argument is that spec is key to prep against generics. That's obviously a reason as to why I also get to specify to a small advocacy since I have to respond to your affirmative. Now PICs back. Conceded Branson evidence means the debate is over. The Branson evidence at the bottom of the paper was the reason as to why the debate is only educational in terms of PICs. Branson is making a very good claim. He graduated high school and college and realized that all of his debate experience was bullshit because extinction scenarios and dissents aren't what's used in policy analysts in the real world. Those were just generic arguments, but he couldn't name a specific thing. The only thing he knew about was when PICs happened because they focused the debate down into one issue and allowed specific education over that argument. That Branson evidence was straight drop L to weighing. The one error didn't do weighing, which means if I do, I definitively win the round. Education is better. It's a line goal of being provides portable skills for the real world. This always fairness, point its longevity. Education affects us when we're older, but fairness matters in one round. P1 schools fund debate without education. We would develop for tournaments which prerequisites. T-point fairness violations are inevitable. Resource inequities and side buys makes people at advantage. T-point value of dip flipping a coin would be maximally fair, but no one would price that. Also, the Branson evidence outweighs 8-point preferred card because it prefer carded evidence on the theory debates. The most subjective, whereas their analytics are slanted by comparative bias. Their line by line arguments. You say affirmative ground. No PICs are key to check back against infinite app prep which whatever they've decided to make the debate about. Ability to pick a plan, framework, and frontline extensively, which means I need some way to get the negative edge. Otherwise, I lose every round. I can't read the constancy and topicality every round. That's the strongest thing to fairness because your interpretation means that F wins 100% of the time. What should I have read against this affirmative without PICs? Deportation's good. That's absurd. Now, your distrust clash argument. You conceded a depth argument of the Branson evidence that it's actually key to clash PICs. Focus the debate on a single issue instead of spreading ourselves thin on every single country. That's strongest thing to education. Nobody really discusses international every single instance of plea bargaining. It goes on a plea bargaining by plea bargaining basis. Now, my counter interpretation is I get one unconditional pick out of a form of plea bargaining and an agent. That solves the majority of your offense. The Blippy Ward picks are probably bad, but my pick was differently good because since it's a core issue at the heart of the affirmative, that counter interpretation solves all your offense, and you've conceded education outweighs, and all your topicality answers contradict your PICs bad arguments.
Right. 30. Starting top. Orders T.
You said just T?
Yeah. Yes?
Topicality should be a reverse voting issue in LD. LD times Q mass boosters of the F. LD does not have a 2AC. People have to make the initial argument starting at half the time negative 1.5% their initial arguments makes 2AC. One error needs to be able to win on a topicality argument, especially when the topicality argument presented is entirely frivolous and screws over the affirmative, especially in a debate where the negative reads a frivolous topicality shell and a pick that steals the entirety of Let's say this their only answer on the RPI debate is that this specific shell is not frivolous. One, I've obviously beat you on the T debate considering you don't go for any argument in the 2 NR, which means I've proven that the shell is frivolous. It's a question of in-round proof that the shell is frivolous. Second, you literally read this app, Ishan, so don't tell me that this topicality shell is not frivolous. You also don't believe this topicality shell since you read this app, and that is one proof that is frivolous, which means you should gut check and vote against them automatically. That's the first reason for the RBI punish them for reading frivolity arguments that distract the debate from substance. And the second reason for the RBI that we'll go for is that times U is a key internal link to education. That is a key internal link to education. Their answer to times U was only about fairness. Big mistake. saying that tax is saying that I can just be faster, be more efficient. First is not a good model for debate in terms of education, since it ensures that no judge can flow, Spencer, like the round 6 resonated in front of you, since if no judge can flow, because they make everyone be faster to solve some, because they just tell everyone to be faster to solve legitimate issues of time skew. Then that leads to lower quality debate. Second is that this argument only solves an fairness argument, since there's just like, oh, there's no structural skew in terms of fairness in the time skew argument, but the time skew argument definitely impacts the education, especially the time skew argument definitely impacts the education, since I'm not able to make as many since I'm not able to make as many arguments in this round. It might be true that I should be more faster, more efficient, but in the context of this specific round, I can't. That is not necessarily possible, which means that that's not necessarily possible, which means that this RBI argument is uniquely key to shut back. So their time skew isn't a real thing arguments only apply in the context of fairness, not education, because education is a question of this specific round, not a general structural skew or what I should do to resolve the structural skew. It's a question of how of what is the most educational model for debate in this round. Given the limitations of the debaters in this round, T should be on the RBI. So let's also now they say counter you get an RBI for every more than one shell, but we have contextualized the RBI arguments to this specific one T shell, which means that all these arguments don't matter, especially given the 2NR does no comparative analysis for why the T argument does zero comparative analysis for why they're giving me an RBI on more than one T shell for why them giving me an RBI on one T shell solves back for my offense. We have done comparative analysis in this specific round why reading one T shell is should uniquely be a reverse voting issue, given the limitations of the debaters and the argument and the pick that was read. They steal the entirety of app offense and then claim the app is not topical. You should lose on T. Extend the counter interpretation. You conceded it. Vote on T.
Good round.